You're listening to the Madness4life News Podcasting Network with your host, Matt Maldonado.
Pretty eyes, I want you to forgive me, for I have been cast out of this life. How quickly I lost the connection. Pretty eyes, I want you to remember me for what I used to be, not what I've become. Life's been a raging sea since you've been gone. I share my torment to the rain, hoping it will wash down to where you've lain. Tell you I'm frail and ill, and how much I wish you were living still. Beyond the mountains, beyond the plains, I start to go insane, screaming out your name. There is nothing I can consciously feel, nothing on earth can help my wounds to heal. Sometimes I feel your presence. Life is much more meaningless now. I can't seem to tell night from day. The leaves of trees no longer sway. If you can hear me from where you are, if you can catch a glimpse of me from afar, spare some room for me by your side. I can't wait to hear your laughter. No matter how much I extend my stay, no matter what words other people say, the only thing that appeals to me is seeing you again someday.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Maldonado here in FEMA Region 9 in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Madness4life News. This is the Saturday edition, July 21st, 2012. I'm going to be getting into Syrian news. Syria moves chemical weapons before wider offensive, defector says. That's Reuters. Syria's next act, the Daily Beast. Israel may act to stop Syria arms reaching Hezbollah, Reuters. And in drone news, the FAA has authorized 106 government entities to fly domestic drones. So I'm going to be getting into all of that today. But let's start with this. Let's talk about the big news of the shootings in Colorado. I'm not really going to do a big report on this today on the podcast. I'm going to be doing it later on in a different show, on the news show. I'm going to try to do a big report on that, about the man that actually dressed up like Bane in gas mask, bulletproof vest, riot gear, and started to began to shoot people in a theater in Colorado with gas canisters going in the dark, and him going through the emergency exits. Because if you looked at the exits when you leave the theater, it actually has no door in the back of it. It doesn't open from the inside, it opens from the outside, and you can't really open it from the outside because there's no handle there. And the fact, even if you pry that thing open, it's literally locked because of the like a door. If you ever saw a doorway with a padlock on it, there's no way of you actually trying to kick that thing down. You have to literally use a battering ram. But even with a battering ram with a steel door, you can't really open that up. But I'm going to be getting into that later on this week. I'm going to be doing a big report on that, maybe even a 2-hour show. So, okay, let's start with this. Syria moves chemical weapons before wider offensive, defector. Oh, and by the way, before I get into this, actually, in the shooting, they actually go and capture him right away with no resistance, no nothing. And he immediately goes, oh, by the way, don't go in my apartment because there are bombs at my apartment. The whole thing stinks to high heaven, and I knew it stunk by heaven just by watching it. But hey, that's okay. You don't have to believe me. You can just research all that. Him being in a what thing he was going for in the University of Colorado. He was doing a PhD in a chemical lab. But anyway, let's go back to this. The Syria chemical weapons before wider offensive, defector says, and Reuters. Continuing here in this article at Reuters.com, I picked this up at Drudge, because this is basically the DrudgeReport.com. That's what all these articles are from. He picked this up. A senior Syrian military defector said President Bashar al-Assad forces were moving chemical weapons across the country for possible use in a military retaliation for the killing of 4 top security officials. The regime has started moving its chemical stockpile and redistributing it to prepare for its use, said General Sheikh. Citing rebel intelligence obtained in recent days, there are more moving it from warehouse to new locations, he told Reuters in an interview in southern Turkey close to the Syrian border. They want to burn the country. The regime cannot fall without portraying a sea of blood first. Syria's 16-month conflict has been transformed since Wednesday, when a bomb killed 4 members of Assad's narrow circle of kin and lieutenants, including his powerful brother-in-law, defense minister, and defense chief. Comments cannot be independently valid, and Syria has denied any such move. Western and Israeli officials concerned that chemical stockpiles could fall into the hands of militants that they fund, by the way, said a week ago that Syria appeared to be shifting weapons from storage sites, but it was not clear whether the operation was a secure precaution or a preparation for deployment. On Friday, Israel said, I keep saying Israeli, it's not Israeli, it's Israel. Israel said it would consider military action if needed to ensure Syrian missiles or chemical weapons did not reach Assad's allies in Lebanon, the Shiite group Hezbollah. Sheikh, who fled his post in the northern command of Assad's army in January, said the coming days would see increased shelling of Sunni strongholds in Damascus and El Poo. But unleashing a border and bloodier army assault would fuel an intense backlash by the mostly Sunni rebels, he said. Al-Qaeda, actually, by the way. That's armed by the State Department of the United States and Israel, as well as Saudi Arabia. But hey, pay that no mind. The coming phase will witness a phase of bloodshed that is unprecedented, and the regime will resort to non-conventional weapons. Every action will trigger a bigger reaction, he said. Assad wants to burn the country. This dictatorial and sectarian regime will not fall without a sea of blood, said Sheikh, whose military council provides a political umbrella to the armed resistance to Assad's rule. Rebel gains, not gangs like they're wearing gang outfits. Gangs are gaining the government. Since Wednesday's attack, rebels have pushed into the heart of the capital and seized control of other towns. On Thursday, they captured 3 border crossings with Iraq and Turkey, the first time they have held sway over Syria's frontiers. Sheikh said the success of Wednesday's bombing, which Free Syrian Army rebels claimed to have carried out, was the fruit of experience gained from months of conflict rather than any fresh weapons supply. The weapons that are coming from outside are a drop in the ocean and are trivial to make a difference, he said. The success of Wednesday's attack surprised him, even though he was tipped by rebels over a month ago. They were undertaking a top-secret operation targeting Assad's inner circle. When I heard of it, I stood in awe that we had reached such a stage inside, he said. So basically, he probably said nothing to Assad to allow that to happen. Yes, Assad's a bad person, but yet they're having Al-Qaeda be in charge in Syria, literally killing Christians, killing Muslims, killing Islams, killing anybody that's actually pro-Assad. I'm not really pro-Assad. He's actually very evil, but yet I'm not really pro-Al-Qaeda either, because they're killing people. They're desecrating churches, desecrating graves. I mean, they were desecrating graves in Libya, the World War II memorial for the British military. Anyway, continuing here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can look that up. It's basically they're making videos about it, desecrating churches and desecrating graves, killing people en masse in Syria. The predatorial of the attack was someone who worked with a top official. The Free Syrian Army is present in every corner of the state, he said, declaring to give any further details. Sheikh said momentum gained by the rebels was prompting faster high-level defection, and at least 100,000 soldiers have deserted out of the 320,000-strong military, almost double the numbers of only a few months ago. On Saturday, a Turkish official told Reuters two Syrian brigadier generals had fled to Turkey overnight. Opposition sources have said thousands of Sunni soldiers have been confined to their bunkers, but cannot desert because of the grip of military intelligence and lack of safe areas. The involvement of the best trained elite forces from the 4th Brigadier to the Republican Army in widening offensive showed the extent of extraction within the army. He said, every day there is extraction. The collapse of the regime is now it's literally going down like a snowball, he says. That's one of the articles. And basically people are just leaving en masse, thinking for some reason that if you not stand up against the... Well, Assad is actually an evil person, but yet with Al-Qaeda in charge, man, that whole country's going to be just gone. And that's another pretext to allow the United States and Israel and even the UN to go in. Even though Russia and China, I believe, ruled them down, ruled both parties down, ruled Western and I think the UN down to do any intervention, humanitarian intervention in Syria, which means bombing people, killing everyone in sight. I mean, that's what they do. That's what the UN and NATO do. You want me to pull up the reports of them doing that, as well as raping people and killing them en masse? Isn't humanitarian mean like giving them aid? But they don't do that. They don't give them aid. They just bomb them to death and just say, okay, we did humanitarian aid, so we have to make sure that they don't bomb them again. You know, Assad did this. Well, actually, you did it. You actually massacred a bunch of people and children. Doesn't matter. We're going to do it. We're going to do that again, just like in Waco. What's Waco have to do with it? Well, they did the same type of things, calling the guy a big-time loon, like a... his follower, what's that follower? Jim Jones. Even though he was not a Jim Jones type, Adam Koresh. Even though he was teaching the 7 Seals, and he even said that he was a messenger, and they even told the kids in there, just said, no, we're not going to attack you. Oh, by the way, we're going to, and we're going to burn down your house. And then they go, oh, it was the Davidians. Why am I going off into the Davidians? Well, I don't know. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like the same thing with Yugoslavia. They came in there to do humanitarian aid, and then they gave them Al-Qaeda. They also did the same thing in Libya. They're doing that now, I think, in Egypt with the Muslim Brotherhood. They're doing, and it's just the same theme going over and over and over again. They're going to do the same thing with Iran. They're doing it in Yemen now. They're going to be doing the same thing in Africa. They already have Somalia. They have Mali. But hey, I could be wrong, even though I've researched this stuff. You don't have to believe me. You can actually look that up for yourself. But hey. Next article from the Daily Beast, Syria's next act. With the rebels moving deeper into Damascus and the regime days appearing numbered, the CIA is racing to find Syria's chemical and biological weapons before it's too late, so they can take it away and give Al-Qaeda the country, start massacring more people, making the country even more of a third world country than them actually going into out of austerity and trying to build up a better country for themselves, like they did in Libya. But hey, that's okay. Anyway, continuing here. With the days and weeks of the Syrian government appearing numbered, the Central Intelligence Agency is scrambling to get a handle on the locations of the country's chemical and biological weapons, while accessing the composition, loyalties, and background of the rebel groups posed to take power in the event President Bashar al-Assad's falls, even though they actually propped them up as a dictator. But hey, that's okay, because if the dictator doesn't do what they say, they're going to just get rid of him. But wait, we already knew that. Obama administration officials tell the Daily Beast that the CIA has sent officers to the region to assess Syria's weapons program. One major task for the CIA right now is to work with military defectors to find out as much information on Syria's weapons of mass destruction. Oh yeah, they're going to push that like Iraq. They have weapons of mass destruction. Oh wait, they don't have weapons of mass. Then why are you there? It doesn't matter. We're there. We're going to take their oil. It's all right. It's for ExxonMobil. It's for Shell. It's for all the other special interests, because they run the country and it's fine, just like the foreign banks and all the elites. Anyway, continuing here, I keep rambling. I shouldn't be doing that. Another focus will be to sort through rams of intercepted phone calls and emails, satellite images, and other collected intelligence to find the exact location of the Syrian weapons. And I bet you they probably don't even have them, but yet they said they do. But I don't know, do they? Who knows? This task has become more was it urgent in recent days. Last week, the Wall Street Journal reported that the Syrian military was moving its chemical weapons out of storages. On July 17th, Fars, Syrian's ex-ambassador to Iraq, told the BBC the regime would not hesitate to use chemical weapons against the rebel fighters. On Wednesday, a bomb killed the Syrian defense minister and the brother-in-law of President al-Assad in Damascus. The blow to the Assad cabinet raised the prospect that the Syrian regime may be on its last legs. I'm sorry, I keep hearing a doorbell, but nobody's ringing anything. Okay, sorry about that. Continuing here, Representative Michael Rogers, the Republican chairman of the House Parliament Selected Committee on Intelligence, declared to provide details on what intelligence assessed have been sent to Syria, and to say rather, the CIA has sent officers on the ground there. He said that the administration had recently deployed the resources necessary to collect the information that we need to make a good decision on medical and biological weapons. Opposition groups and leadership transition strategies. But he added, we don't know nearly what we need to know to be completely effective if the regime were to employ tomorrow. So this is probably going to be another thing of like, oh, he has chemical weapons. Excuse me. Oh, he has chemical weapons, and now we have to go and scramble and help Al-Qaeda take down Assad, and we got to do this, and I don't know. Is this another lie that they're giving us? Who knows? To a bunch of people that chronically lies every day. But hey, that's okay. But I think there is reports of them actually having weapons, chemical weapons. But hey, who knows? I have to research it again. I forget it like an Alzheimer's patient. Okay, continuing here. A CIA spokesman Thursday declared to comment, Syria never signed the 1992 Chemical Weapons Convention. Oh, the treaty that bans the use, stockpiling, or production of chemical weapons. Steve Hardman, a senior advisor for Middle East, intensifies to the U.S. Institute of Peace, a nonpartisan think tank, said he understands Syria's stockpiles to be massive. And there's a picture of Al-Qaeda there. Brian Slayers, the director of government relations for the Syria Support Group, a new lobby in Washington that is pressing the Obama administration to give guns and trading to Syria's opposition, said, we believe that if the United States does not act regrettably, there is a real risk of a political vacuum in Syria, including the possibility of a disposition of chemical weapons to rogue groups such as Hezbollah. Pamela D. Shooter, whatever. Can't even say her name. I'm not even good with last names. Just Paula, who served as Assistant Secretary of State for, verification. There we go. Verification, complex, and implementation between 2002 and 2009, and it is now retired. Said biological weapons could be a bigger concern. A 2011 State Department report on the complex of countries with arms control and non-proliferation agreements, and it remained unclear. It remained unclear whether Syria would use biological weapons as a military option, or whether Syria had violated the biological weapons convention, even though they didn't sign it. Also unclear is what, if anything, Iraq transferred to Syria before the 2003 U.S. invasion. That is the wild card. That was back in 2002. Paula also said she would want the U.S. and international committee to secure any remaining nuclear-related equipment from the El Belar reactor destroyed in 2007 by Israeli jets. Also unclear is what, if anything, Iraq transferred to Syria before the 2003 U.S. invasion. That is the wild cards, said Paula. Whether or not sensitive weapons technology was moved to Syria is a hotly disputed question in the Intelligence Committee. James Clipper, now the Director of National Intelligence and former the Director of the National Spectacle. I can't say that word. I'm sorry. You can find it at on Reuters.com. No, the Daily Beast. I'm sorry. Syria's next act. intelligence agency said in 2003 that he believed materials had been moved out of Iraq in the months before the war and sitting satellite imagery. Even though that was probably old bombs that I've heard before. It was like old bombs that haven't even worked for like years. But hey, that's okay. Almost done here. Okay, continuing here. Obama administration officials say the White House has yet to decide on how it will respond if pro-Assad forces use chemical weapons against the Syrian population or a neighboring country. The administration had told senior regime officials that they will be held responsible if they fail to secure chemical weapons. Paula said the U.S. Should remain vague about the exact consequences. You could say we will target the president of Syria if they are used, and we will target any military organization that use them, Paula said. I would let them wonder. You might want to drop the word Israel in the conversation, too, as a subsequent point to push more war, basically. Heidemann said, Hydemann said, there is obviously no question there has been a great deal of attention in different agencies of the government to the location and security of the chemical weapons stockpiles. He says the U.S. has done some consistency planning on securing Syria's borders as well as airports and seaports to make sure sustentive weapons or terrorists and regime officials do not escape in the event of the regime's collapse. Other issues pending at the White House include who in the current Syrian government could remain in place if the regime falls, and what the U.S. will do to protect Syria religious and ethnic militants. No, monetaries, I'm sorry. Minorities. There we go, minorities. They're going to do nothing for them, and they're going to watch them burn because the government loves it. And they said it's our job. Job to what? To do nothing. We don't care about religious beliefs. While several government agencies and departments are drawing up consistency plans and drafting policy memos, the White House has ultimately control of the policy process and has yet to come to a decision. We are still waiting for red lights. One Obama administration official who works on Syria issues told the Daily Beast, "This is a decision for the president." And the president wants to go to war, and yet the UN will not allow him to go to war because of Russia and China. They warned them. They said, listen, if you attack Syria or Iran, you will be attacked. And I think even if they're in there, I believe, too. Up until now, the Obama administration has preferred to influence events in Syria. From behind the scenes, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has helped create a group of states known as Friends of Syria that seek a major transition through financial support for the opposition, which is Al-Qaeda, by the way. The State Department is also providing non-lethal aid to Syria's opposition. Interesting. So they're feeding them, they're clothing them, as well as arming them. So, you know, it's Al-Qaeda. But hey, we got to take away your rights because we got to get rid of Al Qaeda. That is admitted they put on the planes to fly into the buildings of the World Trade Center. And it was admitted that they brought through the security. But hey. And it was also admitted that they trained them to do that. But, hey. Move on here. Moving on. Non-lethal aid to Syria's opposition, such as communications equipment. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice, Condoleezza Rice's sister, has pushed for UN Security Council resolutions and sanctions targeting President al-Assad and his top aides. A resolution authorizing military intervention in Syria has devoted Thursday by China and Russia at the United Nations. And it just continues from there. It's already over with. So, wow, they're already trying to go in there. And I remember that too. There was already bombings at the in Damascus over the his leadership. Most of his leaders are gone. Anyway, continuing here, the next one is Syria may act to stop Syria arms reaching Hezbollah. And that is Reuters. Israel said on Friday it will consider military action if needed to ensure Syrian missiles or chemical weapons do not reach President Bashar al-Assad's alliance in Lebanon, the Shiite Islamicist movement Hezbollah. I have instructed the military to increase its intelligence preparations and prepare what is needed so that if necessary we will be able to consider carrying out an operation. Defense Minister Hud Barak said in an interview on Channel 10 television. We are following the possible transfer of advanced mutilation. That's not mutilation. It's munitions systems, mainly anti-aircraft missiles or heavy ground-to-ground missiles, but there could also be a possibility of the transfer of chemical weapons from Syria to Lebanon, said Barack. Not Barack Obama. It's not Barack Obama. It's Break. It's basically Break, not Barack. That's not. There's no C. It's just B-R-A-R-A-K. No C. I don't even think that's how you spell Barack. Anyway, continuing here. The movement Assad starts to fall. We will conduct intelligence monitoring and will lace with other agencies. Hezbollah, which in the past has received military and financial support from Syria and Iran, launched thousands of mainly short-range rockets into Israel during the Jewish state's 2006 offensive in southern Lebanon. Some larger-range rockets reached central Israel. The Israel-Lebanon border has been largely quiet since then. Israel has assessed Hezbollah and Iran of carrying out a suicide bombing in Bulgaria on Wednesday that killed 5 Israeli tourists at the Burgas airport, a popular gateway to the Black Sea coast. Iran has denied any involvement. And you guys can actually find that place on a map, on an atlas that nobody reads. They just use their TomToms all day. Not that hard. Just turn to it. It's right there, right next to Turkey. There it is, right above from the miles away from Vienna. It's not Vienna. Verna. Yeah, it's Verna. Anyway, side issue. On Thursday, continuing here, on Thursday, Burke, whatever his name is, toured the Golan Heights, a strategic peninsula that Israel captured from... It's not peninsula. It's I know what that word is. I can't even say it. Sorry about that. That Israel captured from Israel in the Middle East War in 1967, and from where it can monitor movements inside its northern foe. Syrian rebels assassinated 4 of Assad's closest aides in Damascus and seized 3 border crossings with Iraq and Turkey this week, putting the Syrian leader under greater pressure than at any time in the 16-month uprising against his rule. This is basically the same thing that happened in Liberia or Sierra Leone, where they basically, Charles Taylor, the leader in Liberia, where there was basically rebels fighting. There was a big-time civil war there. It wasn't really Sierra Leone, where it was... was there cannibals there? I think it was it cannibals that was in Sierra Leone or Liberia? I think it was Liberia that had the cannibals. And they basically were going in there to stop Charles Taylor and his leadership. It's kind of like the same thing. They basically blew up different things and started killing people, but the State Department, I think, didn't even help them. I think there was even people putting babies in front of the UN because there was a lot of deaths going on there, and I think it was the opposition that was killing those kids and killing other people too, and then they blamed it on Charlie Taylor, even though Charlie Taylor was actually he was crazy, he was killing people, and he said, I didn't do that. Yes, you did. Anyway, continuing here, I'm finishing up. It's going to be probably a short episode. It's probably 45 minutes. Last but not least, in drone news, FAA has authorized 106 government entities to fly domestic drones. That's right. Not only do we have 39,999 drones flying all over the place. Actually, it's actually 98. 39,998 drones flying all over the place. Now they have 106 that are actually now authorized. Some, because most of them are not authorized because they have to get authorization. Here we go. Since January 1st of this year, according to congressional testimony presented Thursday by the Government Accountability Office, the Federal Aviation Administration has authorized 106 federal, state, and local government entities to fly unmanned aircraft systems, also known as drones, within U.S. airspace. We are now on the edge of a new horizon using unmanned aerial systems within the Homeland Security Oversight Subcommittee Chairman Michael McCall. It's not McHale, it's McCall. Can't even say your name. Sorry about that. Republican from Texas, said as he introduced the testimony. Currently, said McCall, there are about 200 active certificates of authorization issued by the Federal Aviation Administration to over 100 different entities, such as law enforcement departments and institutions, to fly drones domestically. Oh, and by the way, this is an article by the cnsnews.com. I'm sorry about that. I didn't say that. Get that out of the way. Currently, said McLeod, there are about 200 active certificates of authorization issued by the Federal Aviation Administration to over 100 different entities, such as law enforcement departments and institutions, to fly drones domestically. At his panel's Thursday hearing, McLeod showed a map of the United States with markers indicating the locations where, as of April, which was about 3 months ago, government entities have been approved by the FAA to fly drones. The number of recipients since that time has increased, McLeod noted. I'm just going to call the dude Michael. Let's call him Michael because that's his name. GAO testified that the FAA's long-term goal is to permit drones to operate in U.S. airspace to the greatest extent possible. Because, hey, there must be crime everywhere, and the Joker may be everywhere, and Al-Qaeda may be everywhere, even though it's admitted that the State Department runs Al-Qaeda, and the CIA basically trains them, and the FBI trains them as well as other countries have also armed and financed Al-Qaeda. Actually, it was usually Saudi Arabia and Israel has done it. And I'm not talking about the Zionist Jews, okay? It's enough like hating religion all day. All right? It's not the religion, it's the individual. It's individuals. It's not because of religion, but hey, we want to blame religion all day. But hey, that's a side issue. Let's go to something else here. The appropriation of domestic drones, GAO said, raises a number of issues, the first of which is the right to privacy. Of course. You don't want to be on your phone out of the blue like, there's a drone, I gotta hang up. First, continuing here, first is privacy as it relates to the collection and use of surveillance data. Gerald L. Dillingham, GAO's director of physical infrastructure issues, told the House Homeland Subcommittee on Oversight on Thursday, members of Congress, civil liberties organizations, and civilians have expressed concerns that the potential increased use of UAS in the national airspace by law enforcement or for commercial purposes has potential privacy implications, said Dunningham. Currently, no federal agency has specific sterility possibility to regulate privacy matters relating to UAS stakeholders have told us that by deploying guidelines for the appropriate use of UASs ahead of widespread appropriations could in fact preclude abuses of the technology and negative public perceptions of the potential use that are planned for these aircraft. The Federal Aviation Administration authorizes military and non-military institutions, federal, state, and local governments, including law enforcement entities and private sector entities, UAS operations on a limit basis after conducting a case-by-case safety review, Dillingham said. Only federal, state, and local government agencies can apply for a certificate of waiver or authorization, COA. Private sector entities must apply for special airworthiness certificates in the experimental category, Dunningham said. Between January 1st, 2012 and July 17th, 2012, said Dunningham, FAA had issued 201 COAs to 106 federal, state, and local government entities across the United States, including law enforcement entities as well as institutions. In addition to authorizing 106 government agencies to operate drones, the FAA has authorized four private manufacturers to fly drones. Additionally, FAA had issued 8 special airworthiness certifications for experimental use to 4 UAS manufacturers, said Dunningham. So they're going to basically try to fly drones so they can keep spying on you, as well as spying on ranchers, spying on just normal people, because Al-Qaeda is everywhere, and we have to literally do all these other things that, you know, the cops can't do and stuff like that, because so we can have a police state, and it's going to be fun. It's just ridiculous. All right, let's... Presently under COA or special airworthiness certificates, UAS operations are permitted for specific times, locations, and operations, said Dunningham. Thus, it is not uncommon for an entity to receive multiple COAs for various missions. The subdivisions of the Department of Homeland Security that includes the Border Patrol currently operates 10 drones, according to DHS officials. Dillingham said Customs and Border Protection, CBP, owns 10 UAS that it operates for its own missions, as well as for mission in conjunction with other agencies. So far, FAA has approved drone use by 12 state and local law enforcement agencies, but many more are interested in beginning to use drones. According to recent FAA data, Dunningham's testified 12 state and local law enforcement entities have a certificate of waiver authorization, COA, while an official at the Department of Justice said the approximately 100 law enforcement entries have suppressed interest in using a UAS for some of their missions. Dunningham noted in his written testimony that the proliferation of drones use raises issues under the Fourth Amendment, which protects the right of individuals to be free from unreasonable searches. Duh. It's illegal to launch drones like that, but hey, that is okay, because hey, we want this country to be a militarized state like North Korea and former Soviet Union, as well as China and Germany, as well as Mussolini and Italy. and other countries like North Korea. No, I already said North Korea. France, Rome, like Mussolini, but then you have Julius Caesar, Pompey the Great, Sulla, and many others. Continuing here, according to the GAO, the FAA would like to permit safest use of drones. The FAA's long-range goal is to permit, to the greatest extent possible, routine UAS operations in the national airspace system while ensuring safety, Dunningham said. He also noted that law enforcement officials had inducted drones would be a potentially cost-effective tool for police work, costing about the same as a traditional police patrol car. Domestically, state and local law enforcement entities represented the greatest potential use of small UAS drones in the near term because small UAS can offer a sample and cost-effective solution for airborne law enforcement activities for agencies that cannot afford a helicopter or another large aircraft, Dunningham testified. Dillingham. I keep saying Dunningham. It's not Dunningham. Last paragraph. For example, he said federal officials and one airborne law enforcement official said that a small UAS cost between $30,000 and $50,000 is more likely to be purchased by state and local law enforcement entities because the cost is nearly less than that of a patrol car. So basically they want to buy drones so they cannot use any cars at all because they basically want to have it where there's like no humans ever. But hey, if you don't believe me, just look that up. They also want you to not actually also drive cars as well. They want to basically not only a cashless society, but also a unmanned, just drones everywhere, all over the streets, checkpoints everywhere, TSA everywhere, because we gotta like take away your rights because Al Qaeda or the Joker is out there and stuff like that. But anyway, that is the show for today. I'm going to be tomorrow, the 22nd, and going to be getting into other news as well. So remember, United We Stand, Divided We Fall. You can also follow me on Facebook as well as YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel as well as Vimeo and Prison Planet, planet.infowars.com. You can follow me there as well as other sites. I will put the links below as well as Close to Modern, the music that you just listened to of this video. That is part of Day. You can go to their websites below that I'm going to be putting down there. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me, and God bless America.